The lack of jobs in the United States is forcing Americans out by the thousands. Thousands of people per month are reportedly moving to Europe in search of better work opportunities.
You know, the economy's bad when you have an Ivy League MBA, when you're 41 years old with industry experience, and you can't get a job. Like, no callbacks, no screening from the recruiter. So here I am on Saturday night, and I've had a little bit of wine, and I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to sign up for DoorDash, not to order a DoorDash order, but to become a DoorDasher. And I see that my neighborhood Trader Joe's is hiring for a sales associate, a crew member, and so is Costco. So I'm going to see if I have any luck in retail.
It's no secret that the U.S. job market is horrible right now, especially for entry-level jobs. It's the worst it's been since the pandemic, with the underemployment rate reaching 42.5%, says one job seeker. Every weekend, I dedicate over 2 hours to job applications. As of today, I've applied to over 90 jobs. I've been ghosted by nearly 25% of them and rejected automatically from around 55%. She's not alone in her struggles either. One guy in Minnesota who had been in the workforce for 8 years went back to school to get a master's in accounting, and since graduating with a master's degree, he hasn't been able to find a job either. I'm about to drop my standards for salary after this next round of interviews gets hashed out, since my next job isn't my forever job, but I still need to make money, and it really does feel like I'm in an area that doesn't match with my industry.
So today I put in my keyword search. I put jobs posted in the last 24 hours and 659 jobs pulled with my keyword. Then I put for salary 60K plus. 60K, not a great amount in the United States. It's just, it'll do. And that depends on where you live too. It went from 659 job possibilities to 27.
Things are so dire that the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell went to Harvard to tell students not to despair in the face of weak job prospects and the threat of AI. Now, that was a few weeks before President Trump threatened to fire him, so his job isn't safe either. Anyway, the U.S. job market has been headed downhill for a long time. Since 2023, job postings for entry-level roles have fallen by more than 35% in the United States, and a reported 63% of U.S. executives expect AI to take over some of their employees' roles. Says one LinkedIn executive, the impact is real and it is very significant. Entry-level workers and new grads are dealing with a perfect storm. You have all the uncertainty in the macroeconomic environment, and that's affecting hiring, but you also have the beginnings of disruption from AI. That's all leading to unemployment.
You were supposed to go to college and get a degree, and it's all supposed to work out, right? Wrong. I have 3 degrees, 2 bachelors, 1 in math, another in economics. I got my master's last year in marketing, and I worked as an analyst, as a lead analyst, and this is where I'm at. I'm trying to remain as hopeful as I can, but, to be honest, I'm pretty worried, a little bit scared. I've been, pretty emotional, understandably. I just don't know what's going to happen.
On top of that, the number of people who have been in long-term unemployment for 6 months or more has been steadily increasing over the past 3 years since the pandemic ended. According to CNBC, unemployment is becoming the status quo. 1 in 4 unemployed people, or 1.8 million Americans, have been job searching for over half a year, which in most cases means they've also exhausted their unemployment insurance benefits. Benefits vary by state, but on average replace less than 40% of a person's previous income. Add that to the 2 or 3 million people that are currently living in their cars in the United States, which I talked about just the other day in a separate video, and we have a dire situation on our hands. In response to this news, many Americans have had enough, and they're leaving the country. Over the past 5 years, the number of U.S. workers who've quit their jobs to move abroad has more than doubled, from 2.7% in 2021 to 6% by end of 2025. One of the biggest factors driving this migration wave is remote work. While tech jobs in the US have been drying up, Europe has been looking to attract US talent by investing more heavily in AI, cloud infrastructure, and other tech sectors. Here's a crazy stat. Since January of last year, the number of US tech workers moving to Europe has exceeded the number of European tech workers heading in the other direction, a reversal of the previous trend. Last year, around 2,500 American workers per month left to take jobs abroad. Just today, a couple that I've been helping to move to Europe over the last few months had to cancel their relocation because they both got laid off from their jobs. And while they were looking for other ones, one of them found a job that will let her work remotely, but not from outside of the US. So one of the things that I suggested to them actually was applying for in-person jobs over in Europe. The lower cost of living in Europe compared to the US also appeals to US workers.
You can do it. I've done it twice. I've lived in Munich and I've lived in Paris as an American. And I don't have ancestry, like Italian ancestry or anything to get me a passport. Just me and my US passport. So if I can do it, you can do it. It's a lot better out here.
Now, the cost of living abroad is a topic that we cover a lot on this channel. So if that interests you, make sure to subscribe because I have more than 500 videos about living and working abroad that you can watch all for free here on my channel. In 2025, more people moved out of the US than into it for the first time in nearly 100 years. Among them are tens of thousands of US professionals who are looking for a lower cost of living, better work-life balance, and more flexibility. The main job sectors of people leaving include software, finance, marketing, business consulting, UX design, tech operations, and somewhat ironically, people who work in AI.
I have a secret. In the interest of supporting the girlies on this app, I want to talk about the salaries I was interviewing for when I was moving to Berlin. And I'll specifically be referring to product management roles in Fortune 500 companies and larger startups. For Delivery Hero, they were offering $75,000 to $85,000. For N26, they were offering $90,000 plus. For Deutsche Bank, they were offering $92,000 plus. My current company offered me more than 6 figures, so I took it. And in Munich and Frankfurt, the salaries are even higher.
For people across the country, especially in expensive cities like San Francisco, New York, and Austin, Texas, it no longer makes financial sense to live in the US, especially if you can earn dollars from abroad. But getting a job in a foreign country is not as easy as just buying a one-way ticket to Europe and hoping for the best. In most cases, you need to have a written job offer from a company to be able to apply for a work permit there. And in many cases, those companies need to advertise those jobs to the local population or prove that a local can't do that job before they hire a foreign worker. Regardless of which country you move to, you need a visa that fits the type of work you'll be doing there. The most common types of visas include remote work. These visas allow you to work remotely for a foreign company or yourself, but you often need to have months or years of work experience, a salary history, a client list, and in some cases, a higher education degree. You also need to show an income of anywhere from $1,000 to $8,000 per month, depending on the country where you're applying. These visas typically grant you anywhere from 6 months to 2 years to live in a foreign country. Then there are traditional work permits. You can apply for a work permit if you have a job offer from a local company. This permit was designed for having an in-person job, so you might be living and working abroad, but it will be from an office, whether it's in London, Amsterdam, or Singapore. The good news is that a work permit is typically a path to be able to attain permanent residency. However, there are considerations to keep in mind, such as learning a foreign language or adapting to a foreign work culture. Most countries also offer some form of a small business or freelancer visa, which would allow you to offer professional services to the local population. Again, you typically need to show either a business plan or work experience to be able to qualify for this type of visa, and some countries limit the number of small business visas that they issue per year. On a higher level, you have entrepreneur or startup visas. This visa is for you if you have entrepreneurial experience or own a startup. This level of visa typically involves a higher monetary investment, often in the 5 to 6 figures. In some cases, you may need to hire local employees or rent a physical office or show an innovative business plan that can contribute to the local economy. If you're between jobs, you could consider going back to school and applying for a study permit once you get an acceptance letter from a foreign institution. The only catch here is that in many cases, you won't be allowed to work while on a student visa, or you could be limited to only part-time work, such as in the United Kingdom. Also, going to school is expensive. If you're looking for a quick way to make money or change careers, then going back to school for a few years and paying tuition is not the most economical way to move abroad. If you're retired, you could look into a passive income retirement or a golden investor visa, which I've talked about in many videos on retiring abroad on my channel. There is stiff competition for these types of jobs, and the topic of visas can get highly complex. So if you need any help, you can always reach out to my team and I at travelingwithkristin.com.
I retired here. I live here. I have genuine friendships here. I have daily routines. I have, an actual community and belonging here. This is not a vacation for me or any of the other expats that live here. This is my life. And I'll tell you honestly, it's a far better life and more peaceful and fulfilling and meaningful life than I had anywhere else.
According to this data by Revelio, most Americans who are leaving the country for work are headed to Europe, especially France, which I find very interesting because France is not known for having the best job market. Speaking French would definitely be a benefit to working in France. FlexJobs reports that the Mediterranean area of Europe, as well as Mexico, Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, Canada, Australia, and several countries in Southeast Asia are also hotspots for U.S. talent. Again, this is quite an ironic reversal from the trend of U.S. companies offshoring their jobs. In this case, U.S. workers are leaving their jobs in the U.S. to work offshore. FlexJobs also points out that not all of the people moving abroad are permanently relocating, but many are temporary expats, international contractors, digital nomads, or other professionals who are living abroad temporarily. In my experience as a relocation consultant of 20 years, a lot of the people who move abroad tend to stay there. The Wall Street Journal did a story about Americans moving to Finland through a recruiting program called Work in Finland, launched by the country's Ministry of Economic Affairs and Employment. Finnish diplomats actually pitched living in Finland in a video, telling researchers and scientists that if they're looking for a stable and forward-looking environment, Finland is a serious option. The interesting thing about these countries, which are trying to lure workers over there, is that they're not doing it with any kinds of crazy job perks or talking about the amazing food and wine and culture and beaches that you can find over in Europe. They're simply advertising these jobs as a return to normalcy. Just come here, get a job, and live a normal life. And I think that's pretty sad. One economist put this way: it's not about salary, it's about what you get for the cost. Better public services, healthcare that doesn't bankrupt you, childcare you can actually afford, a workday that ends, and a life that doesn't revolve entirely around surviving the next bill. Now, I know a lot of people will think that leaving the US for other opportunities abroad is giving up on America or being unpatriotic in some way. And I can definitely see that perspective because it is ironic that in less than one generation, millions of people who migrated to the US for better opportunities, all of their children and grandchildren, us, are wanting to go back abroad. But I don't necessarily see it as being unpatriotic. I see it as us taking those values of the United States Constitution of freedom, independence, and self-actualization and bringing it with us wherever we go, even if it's outside the borders of the United States. LinkedIn executives expect a new type of economy to emerge, similar to the change from farms to factories during the Industrial Revolution and factories to offices during the tech revolution. One thing's for sure, we're at a moment of disruption right now, with data suggesting that 70% of jobs could change by 2030. As the old saying goes, change is hard, but change can also be good. And these changes in technology, the AI revolution, and the political mess that we're in right now are no exception. Now, if you're seriously considering moving abroad in the next year, I can definitely help you. I've been helping people move abroad for the last 2 decades, so I'll leave my contact info below this video and in a QR code on the screen. But for those of you who aren't thinking of going abroad, you might be thinking, is there any other way out of this mess? And the good news is, yes. Humans will be at the center of work. You've got to really understand what your unique curiosities are and what drives you. Really start to understand how you're going to get to a place where no one beats you at being you. So I'm curious, what will you do? Will you change careers? Will you move abroad? Or will you retire early and just get out of this mess altogether? Let me know in the comments below. And consider sharing this video with someone that you think it might help. And to find out how the skyrocketing cost of housing is also driving people to leave the United States, watch this video next.